This week I will be doing today's show, my top 5 offenses. On Wednesday's show, my top 5 defenses. On Friday's show, my top 5 teams. And then on Monday, I will be doing my top 5 headlines. So spacing out, getting ready for the season. Excuse me. Be really fun. I'd love some of your guys' feedback. Let me know down in the comment section if you agree with my list, disagree with my list, and let's get it started. So my top 5 offenses. Number 5, I have the New Orleans Saints. This is probably my dark horse team, but are we really going to be surprised if Drew Brees throws for another 5,000 yards? I mean, he's the only quarterback trending-wise that's shown he consistently does 5,000. Everybody nowadays with the passing offenses, how they are, everyone can throw for 4. Drew Brees is the only guy consistently throwing for 5. I think there's like 8 seasons all time. He got like 5 of them already. It's crazy. His 5,000 yards. You look at his weapons, Michael Thomas, Coby Fleener, and basically Drew Brees, even more so than Brady, has turned guys who would be 3rd and 4th receivers into 2nd and 1st receivers. I mean, Marcus Colston, Jimmy Graham. He's now obviously now has Fleener, Thomas, Brandon Cooks just went to New England. He's turned so many guys and had them outperform their levels of play. And my other reason, once again, this is probably why it's my dark horse pick, is I think Adrian Peterson is a perfect fit. I think he's going to have the same kind of transition into the third part of his career from in Adrian Peterson's career, going from stud rookie to Pro Bowl or All-Pro, best back in the league, to now becoming more of a third down veteran type of back, just the same way LaDainian Tomlinson did for the Jets. We're also going to be talking about him later in the show. And Adrian Peterson will be able to fill a more physical Darren Sproles type of role, and I think he's going to do it exceedingly well. So Saints, my number 5 offense. Number 4, Oakland Raiders, Derek Carr. You got to start with the quarterbacks in pretty much all of these lists because those are the guys that are going to have the top 5 offenses. Derek Carr, let's say his weapons. You got Crabtree, Cooper, Jared Cook, Marshawn Lynch. Some of the Crabtree and Cooper might be, I would argue, Thomas and Sanders, but they're 1A, 1B in terms of the best wide receiver tandems in the league. Jared Cook is one of the best deep threat tight ends we've seen in the league since Vernon Davis. And Marshawn Lynch, do I think there's a lot left in the tank? No, but I think there's one really good season left and then falls off a cliff. But for this year, 100%, the offensive line is probably third only to Dallas and my number 3 team that I'm going to talk about. And honestly, the Raiders, I have such a high opinion of Derek Carr, despite him being in the same division as Denver, and I'm not shamed about my biases. I am biased. Everybody's biased. Get over it. The Raiders would probably be, I think so highly of Derek Carr, they would be my number 1 offense if they did not play in such a competitive defensive division. And I think 6 games against the Chargers, Broncos, and Chiefs bring the Raiders down to where if they weren't in that division, they would easily be the number 1 offense. Division is I think it plays a huge part. It's why I have the Saints at and part of the reason why I have the Saints number 5 too, is they play in a really weak defensive division, which is why Brees keeps racking up all these yards and points. Number 3, I got to do my own sound effects. The Titans number 3, once again, probably another dark horse pick. Marcus Mariota is probably the most accurate quarterback we have in the league right now. Doesn't take a lot of chances per se, but extremely accurate, great in the red zone. They get down there. They don't get field goals. They get touchdowns. That's a big part of being a top 5 offense. Corey Davis, Eric Decker, Delaney Walker, DeMarco Murray. He's got a 1,500-yard running back behind him. He has a deep threat in Corey Davis, a really good receiver in Eric Decker. Delaney Walker is right there with Jared Cook as far as the deep threat tight end. Offensive line is second only to Dallas. I also like Derrick Henry as a backup as far as getting touchdowns in the red zone. The Titans are probably the best red zone team in the National Football League. So when you look up, they don't always have to have a lot of yards. They get a lot of points because they convert whenever they're down there. Excuse me. Once again, division that they play in outside of the Texans. The Marcus Mariota does very well against the Jaguars despite them having a top 10 defense, and the Colts defense is about as effective as some cheese. So the Titans I have as my 3rd ranked offense. My number 2 offense, Pittsburgh Steelers. It's really simple. I think the Steelers just simply have the most talent. You've got Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, the best trio we've had in football, probably the best trio we've had in terms of talent since the Cowboys of the 90s. You have a guy like a Marcus Wheaton and You have so much pure talent on that offense that even though the offensive line is, I think, so-so despite Villanueva, and I can't remember their other guard's name, there's just more pure offensive talent on the Steelers than there is any other team in the league. So that's why they're my number 2. I'm going to get a lot of hate for this first pick, and I'll explain the 2 teams that I left off this list. My number 1 offense in football, and everyone's going to hate it, and everyone's going to complain, but I don't care. It's my list, and that is the Dallas Cowboys. Why do I say it's the Dallas Cowboys? Because 2 of my biggest things with this list, if you look, I think just one of the biggest you'll hear me talk about, especially when I do college football, is offensive line is key. The offensive line is such a big deal. You can get yards, points, and win games that you had no business doing simply because your offensive line dominates the game. This is why Alabama's been a powerhouse in the NCAA for the last 5 years. This is why LSU is always a powerhouse. This is why Nebraska is always a powerhouse. Those 5 guys up front can win games for you without ever recording a stat. So let's look at this. You have the offensive line. You have the division, which is a very weak defensive football division. Does anyone think the Eagles are stopping anyone? No. Anyone think the Redskins are stopping anyone? No. The Giants are your only top-tier defense you have in that division. And, yeah, the Dallas Cowboys went 0-2 against them. But, once again, Dak Prescott is my other reason. Being another year older, I think he's going to take more chances, so I think his interceptions will go up, but I also think his touchdowns will as well. I'm predicting 30-plus touchdowns out of him, still staying under 10 interceptions. I think we'll see more of a 4,000-yard play action, deep threat with what's becoming a really good receiving core and just weapons in total when you factor in Ezekiel Elliott, Darren McFadden, who's probably the best second running back in the NFL. You have Dez Bryant, Terrence Williams, Cole Beasley, Ryan Switzer, who I really like, who's the rookie. And also the tight end they just got, or not on got, but the one who's in the practice squad. I don't know why I'm forgetting his name now, but he got the touchdown in the Hall of Fame game. He's big dude, 6'6", 280, and they got a lot of weapons. Like I said, that offensive line's not going away. Dak Prescott's going to get better. I think you're going to see what is the second. This is a really big statement, but Dak Prescott is basically the second coming of Tom Brady in terms of accuracy, in terms of how he handles the position, in terms of how he just handles the football. That's a previous video if you want to go check that out. And I got the Cowboys as my number 1 offense because I think they're going to run through that division. I think they're going to run through the NFC, and they are my, without spoiling too much, preseason going to do very well pick. I'm going to be doing that in a later show, so I don't want to give it all away right now. My 2 teams that are left off there that I know everyone's probably screaming and shouting are the Falcons and the Patriots. And here's why. The Patriots, despite all their new additions, and everyone's like, they're going to run through the league, they're going to try to go perfect, they're going to put up all these numbers. The fact is, since 2012, and that is in the Gronkowski, Hernandez was the year of them, then that era since 2012, Tom Brady's only had a top 5 offense the one time. So, as great as Tom Brady is, top 5 offense just isn't what he does. He's got the one powerhouse year in 2007. He's got really good years across the board, but he's never been this elite statistical guy in terms of year to year putting up top 3, top 5 numbers. He has simply just always been like right on the outside, 6 or 7, and then a couple spike years, and which is why his totals have accumulated the way they have. But when you compare him and a guy like Manning or Brees, who he's played along with, they've always have had significantly better passing yards, touchdowns, that kind of deal. So that's why I don't have the Patriots in there. Not that they won't be great, but simply they just haven't been a top 5 offense, and I'm not willing to believe Gronkowski is going to stay healthy for a full year until I see it. My other team, obviously, that everyone's going to go, why are they not on your list, is the Atlanta Falcons. Well, the Atlanta Falcons, like any of the other big-time offenses, and I'm talking about like the 98 Vikings, the 07 Patriots, the 2013 Broncos, those offenses that get into that 500-plus point category and start breaking records, is they'll have huge drop-offs because for whatever reason, and, you know, stick with me here, it's the same reason why I talked about LeBron not being able to do what he did against the Warriors is everyone has a peak. Peyton Manning, the year after throwing 55 touchdowns, threw 36. That's a 19 touchdown drop off. How many guys you know could have a 19 touchdown drop off and still be elite? And Matt Ryan and that whole offense, as great as the numbers they were that put up, they're going to have a drop off. Partly because teams learn to play you better. Guys don't have those kind of years. Generally, when you have those kind of seasons, it's because you've got a couple even like fluke or freak games. Like Julio Jones isn't getting 300 yards in a game against the Panthers again. They won't do it. They'd rather have someone slash his tires and make sure it doesn't show up to the game before they let that happen again. Matt Ryan's not throwing for 500 yards and 450 yards 3 or 4 times again. That stuff's it's like when the Patriots, Brady got hurt the year after, but in 2009, they were a really good offense, but they were not 50 touchdowns breaking records offense. And then the Vikings, once again, same thing, and that team. And 2 of those 3 teams I just mentioned, they had Randy Moss in prime condition. One had Chris Carter, Wes Welker, and the Falcons, I'm sorry, Julio Jones is not Randy Moss, and their secondary receiver, whoever you want to give that to, is not as good as either Wes Welker or Chris Carter. So the Falcons I have dropping off. They will probably both be top 10 offenses, but this is a top 5 list. So reviewing that one more time, my top 5, I have the Saints at 5, the Raiders at 4, the Titans at 3, the Steelers at 2, and the Dallas Cowboys at 1. Once again, division, offensive line, and quarterbacks were my 3 biggest factors in determining who I think the top offenses are going to be. Hey, and maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? Let me hear your list if you want to put it down in the comment section of either the iTunes of the podcast and or the YouTube video. So let me know. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. YouTube, SoundCloud, and iTunes. Also, don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. If you'd like to see more videos, click right here on my chest. And I will see you guys next time.